I'm going to see how this works because I want to send a story to Macie. And this one's called The Library Lion. Okay, let's see what's inside. Oh, the Library Lion. One day, a lion came into the library. He walked right past the front desk and he disappeared between the book stands. Mr. Macbee ran down the hall to the head librarian's office. "Miss Merriweather!" he shouted. "No running," said Miss Merriweather without looking up. But there's a lion," said Mr. Macbee, "in the library." "Is he breaking any rules?" asked Miss Merriweather. She was very particular about rule breaking. "Well, no," said Mr. Macbee, "not really." "Then leave him be," she said. There she is. What's going to happen on the next page? Oh, Grandma can't turn the page over. Come on. Hold on. Here we go. The lion wandered around the library. He sniffed the card indexed. He rubbed his head against the new books and he padded over to the story corner and went to sleep. No one knew what to do. There weren't any rules about lions in library. It was soon story time. There weren't any rules about lions at story time either. The story lady seemed a little nervous, but she read out the title of the first book in a strong, clear voice. The lion looked up. The story lady kept on reading. There she is. The lion stayed for the next story and the story after that, and he waited for another story, but the children began to walk away. "Story time is over," a little girl told him. And the lion looked at the children, and he looked at the story lady, and he looked at the closed books, and then he roared very loudly. "Roar!" Can you roar? Roar! Oh, Miss Merriweather came marching out of her office. "Who's making that noise?" she demanded. "It's the lion," said Mr. Macbee. Miss Merriweather marched over to the lion. "If you can't be quiet, then you will have to leave," she said in a stern voice. "Those are the rules." The lion kept roaring. He sounded sad. The little girl tugged on Miss Merriweather's dress. "If he promises to be quiet, can he come back for story time tomorrow?" she asked. The lion stopped roaring and he looked at Miss Merriweather, and Miss Merriweather looked back. And she said yes, a nice quiet lion would certainly be allowed to come back for story time tomorrow. "Hooray!" cried the children. The next day the lion came back. "Oh, you're early," said Miss Merriweather. "Story time isn't until 3 o'clock." But the lion didn't move. "Very well," said Miss Merriweather. "You might as well make yourself useful." And she sent him off to dust the books until story time. The next day the lion arrived early again, and this time Miss Merriweather asked him to lick her envelopes for the overdue letters. Soon the lion started doing jobs without being asked. He dusted the encyclopedias, he licked the envelopes, he let small children stand on his back. I'd like to do that. And they were able to reach the books on the highest shelf, and then he curled up in the story corner to wait for story time to begin. At first, people in the library were nervous about the lion, but soon they were used to having him there. In fact, he seemed very well suited to the library. His big feet were quiet on the library floor. He made a comfy backrest for the children at story time, and he never roared in the library anymore. "Oh, what a helpful lion," people said. Oh, they all like him. They patted his soft head as he walked by. "However did we manage without him?" Mr. Macbee scowled when he heard that. They'd always managed perfectly fine before. No lions were needed. Lions, he thought, could not understand rules. They did not belong in the library. One day, lots of words on this page. One day he had dusted all the encyclopedias. And licked all the envelopes and helped all the small children. The lion padded down the hall to Miss Merriweather's office to see what else there was to do. There was still a while until story time. "Hello, Lion," said Miss Merriweather. "I have something you can do. You can take a book back to the front desk for me. Let me just get it down from the top shelf." Miss Merriweather... What's going to happen? Miss Merriweather stepped up onto the stool. The book was just out of her reach. Ooh, Miss Merriweather stood on her tiptoes. Ooh, almost there, she said. And then Miss Merriweather stretched a little bit too far. Look at her feet, Mace. "Oh," said Miss Merriweather softly. She did not get up. "Mr. Macbee," she called after a minute. "Mr. Macbee." But Mr. Macbee was at the front desk and he could not hear her calling. "Lion," said Miss Merriweather, "please go and get Mr. Macbee." The Lion ran down the hall. "Look at him there running." "Oh, no running," Miss Merriweather called after him. He put his paws on the front desk and looked at Mr. Macbee. "Go away, Lion," said Mr. Macbee. "I'm busy." The Lion whined, and he pointed his nose down the hall towards Miss Merriweather's office. Mr. Macbee ignored him. Finally, the Lion did the only thing he could think of to do. He looked at Mr. Macbee straight in the eye, and he opened his mouth very wide, and he roared the loudest roar he had ever roared in his life. Can you roar, Macie? "Oh, Mr. Macbee!" Mr. Macbee gasped. "You're not being quiet," he said to the Lion. "You're breaking the rules." And Mr. Macbee walked down the hall as fast as he could. The Lion didn't follow him. He had broken the rules. He knew what that meant, and he hung his head and walked out towards the door. Mr. Macbee did not notice. "Miss Merriweather," he called as he walked. "Miss Merriweather, the Lion has broken the rules. The Lion has broken the rules." Oh, look. Oh, there's the Lion going off, Mace. Oh, no, he looks so sad. Oh, gosh, what's going to happen next? Mr. Macbee burst into Miss Merriweather's office. She was not in her chair. "Miss Merriweather," he said. "Sometimes," said Miss Merriweather from the floor behind her desk, "there is a good reason to break the rules, even in the library. Now, please go and call the doctor. I think I've broken my arm." Mr. Macbee ran to the phone. "No running," Miss Merriweather called after him. There he is. There she is on the floor. Uh-oh, broken her arm. Uh-oh. Oh, no running. The next day, things were back to normal, almost. Miss Merriweather's left arm was in a sling, and the doctor told her not to work too hard. "Oh, well, I'll have my Lion to help me," Miss Merriweather thought. But the Lion did not come to the library that morning. At 3 o'clock, Miss Merriweather walked over to the story corner, and the story lady was just about to start reading, but the Lion was not there. Oh, heck, there they are. They're all looking for him. Where's the Lion? The people in the library kept looking up from the newspapers and their computers, hoping that they would see a familiar furry face, but the Lion did not come that day. The Lion did not come the day after, or the day after that. There's Mr. Macbee there. Look, he looks as though he's happy about the Lion not coming. Oh no. Oh, there she is with her broken arm. One evening, Mr. Macbee stopped at Miss Merriweather's office as he was leaving the library. "Can I do anything for you before I go, Miss Merriweather?" he asked her. "No, thank you," said Miss Merriweather. She was looking out of the window. Her voice was very quiet, even for the library. Mr. Macbee frowned as he walked away. He thought there probably was something he could do for Miss Merriweather. What do you think it's going to be? Mr. Macbee left the library, but he did not go home. He walked around the nearby streets. He looked under cars. He looked up trees. He looked behind rubbish bins. Finally, he ended up back at the library. The Lion was sitting outside looking through the glass doors. "Hello, Lion," said Mr. Macbee. The lion did not turn round. "I thought you might like to know," said Mr. Macbee, "that there is a new rule at the library. No roaring unless you have a very good reason. Say, if you're trying to help a friend who's been hurt, for example." The lion's ears twitched. He turned around, but Mr. Macbee was already walking away. The next day Mr. Macbee walked down the hall to Miss Merriweather's office. "Oh, what is it, Mr. Macbee?" said Miss Merriweather in a new, sad, quiet voice. "Oh, I thought you might like to know," said Mr. Macbee, "that there's a lion in the library." Miss Merriweather jumped up from her chair and she ran down the hall. She ran down the hall. "Oh, no running!" Mr. Macbee smiled and he called after her, but Miss Merriweather didn't listen. Sometimes there was a good reason to break the rules, even in the library. That's the last page, Mace. Did you like it? Do you think he might just be one of those stone ones that comes to life? What do you think? I'm really missing you. I hope you like the story. Love you, Macie.